Hello and welcome to that show on the weekend. We talk about weekly tech news and other random things. So, I guess a new Pokemon game. Would you like to talk about that? Start us off?
Yeah, I mean, the new Pokemon games came out, The Sun and the Moon, starring psychedelic Sun Lion and Moonbat as our legendaries this time around. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm excited for Moonbat. That's why I picked Moon. There's also Bug Bus, and Terrifying Spider, and Horrifying Sandcastle.
Sandcastle. They will make anything Pokemon.
It's a ghost ground Pokemon. It's a haunted sandcastle made of grudges of people that were on the beach. It's made of grudge, and it's adorable. You put your hand in it, it mind controls you to start piling more sand on top of it, and that's how it eventually evolves, is that it hypnotizes enough people to make it into a bigger sandcastle. And then underneath it is, when it evolves, it's on top of a large bunch of skeletons of people whose energy it completely drained. Because if there's one thing Pokemon has zero fucks to give, it's been doing the Pokedex entries for Ghost Pokemon. They just have no chill.
Also doing the same thing in 3D when that came out. Pokemon 3D.
What about Pokemon 3D?
I was just saying it's the same thing as always, but just in 3D.
No, it was in 3D last generation.
Oh.
Actually, no, they changed up the formula a lot in this one. You're familiar with Pokemon games, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you know the HMs? Those moves that let you do things in the map, but you can't ever get rid of them? They did away with those. So like fly, cut, surf. That's not in the game anymore.
That sucks. I remember I could cut my way through a vegetable patch and not have any surprise Pokemon.
I mean, it's fine. They were used for gating content. Like, from a mechanical perspective, it made sense. Because, like, in order to get to this point in the game, you have to have done this thing to get this thing to do this thing.
Yeah.
And instead of using that as gating to gate your content,
Yeah.
they're literally using gates now.
Wow, how innovative. It's just like I'm playing Grand Theft Auto with the magical river between the two, which somehow you can't cross.
I mean, it's a thing that games do. You can't be like, well, Pokemon shouldn't do that. I mean, if you've ever played anything where you run into an invisible wall, except in this case, they physically put a wall there.
Well, at least they did that much. I hate invisible walls. I feel so uncreative.
I've been watching a lot of Watch and Play, which is where in Loading Ready Run, which is a group of people. In Watch and Play, one of them finds nothing but horrible shit games and forces the other one to play them for his amusement.
That's not good. Well, I mean, that's funny, but, sad for the person.
Well, I mean, he knew what he signed up for. But at the same time, like, what is he doing?
Just keep going. Don't worry.
That's really distracting.
I know.
Going back to your, I'm super professional now. Don't mind me.
This is what professionals do. They say don't mind what the man behind the curtain is doing. I mean, you saw that in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, that was a professional film.
I mean, for the time.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway. Playing terrible games, and you start picking up on a lot of patterns. So, like, the cheap use, or the cheap go-to, instead of invisible walls, are like impassable valleys. Like you're walking through the game and suddenly the hills look like this. I'm like, gee, I wonder where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
So, like, invisible walls are awful and everything, but they prevent all of your towns from being in valleys. There's a reason for it.
So, the next news article I had. What are your thoughts and opinions? You can hold it. Microsoft is saying that their Edge browser is the only one that's going to support Netflix 4K streaming. And
I mean, how much stuff on Netflix can do 4K?
I imagine quite a bit. Anything shot on a red.
Which is...
Well, I mean, House of Cards was shot on a red.
Okay. And...
Well, I'm sure a lot of other professional shows...
If you're going to announce something like, we're the only ones that can do anything in 4K, you need to back that shit up with a list of things that are in 4K so that you know what you're looking for.
Well, I mean, you could upscale.
I mean, that doesn't help.
That's true.
Your monitor will do that automatically.
Yeah.
Like, we've already been able to do that on PC. Like, that's not a thing. Like, Edge, though?
Hmm.
Who even uses Edge?
I don't know. People who live at universities and don't have a choice by their IT department.
Which is no one.
That's true.
If that's the case, they're still using Windows, or, not Windows, Internet Explorer 12. Or 11. Whatever one it is.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the whole, Note 7 exploding? Battery fire.
I mean, it happens.
I mean, this was... I guess the more prolific these things happen, the more severe they happen. So if it would happen again in 20 years, it would even be bigger. But, I mean...
Well, when you're trying to... So here's the problem with the whole we have to have a new product every year mentality. Is that you have to have a new product every year. Everybody wants to have a new product every year. But then you get into the other issue where everybody's trying to edge each other out, where we're trying to get our new we're trying to get our new product this year before the other people get their new product this year out. And when you're trying to rapid develop and you don't have a testing period, because that's the difference between getting it out before the iPhone, getting it out after the iPhone, is how much testing you do. Like, exploding batteries is a quality control issue. They could have fixed that had they had the time to go and make sure that the batteries didn't explode.
They commented it would have only been like a 3-cent fix per unit.
Right.
If they had done the proper research.
But, again, if your whole business model is based off of we need to get our phone out before the iPhone...
I mean, I have a Note 5, and it's like my computer that was built in 2011. It's fine. Technology is getting to the point when it's like, this thing won't be out of date for probably 10 years.
Right. Well, probably not then.
5, 8, maybe longer.
There's a certain point where you bake in an expiration date.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, Windows definitely, but...
The original Samsung Galaxy still runs. And that phone came out in... What, 2010?
Yeah, it'd have to.
Yeah, 2010, which was only 6 years ago. They stopped updating them 2 years after they came out, so that people would be forced to go to the next one. And then if you look at the iPhone 4S didn't get the most recent update, so those people now have to get a new phone. Though it is perfectly capable, while running it not as well, it can run the new updates just fine. But if everybody just keeps holding on to their own old stuff and never buying new stuff...
Although Samsung doesn't build relationships with their customers. Apple does. You know, like, iPad 2 got the latest iOS 10, which is a 7-year-old device.
Right. Well, that's partially because the iPad 2 is used in a lot more crucial areas than the phones are. Like, the iPad 2 is used in some medical devices. So if that doesn't stay up to date, those medical devices can have issues down the road. So the iPads get a pass on this whole we have to force people to update things, simply because they cannot force these things that have these things built into it to update. Because the museums, for example, that have Cornell's museum, for example.
Kiosks with the built-in iPad.
Right. That as well as Square.
Yeah.
Like the Square terminals use iPads. So if you don't keep those up to date, then people will get really upset. And you have to update them so that people can continue to use them for the chip readers. And stuff.
And by Apple watching Microsoft with their debacle of Windows 10, they're like, yeah, we don't want that to happen to us.
Oh, right. Not only that, but... Okay, guys, we're discontinuing Windows XP. Well, good luck!
I have that retro XP machine right there just so I could play older games. Now, I know you said just run an emulator or a thing, but a few of my games, mouse input does not translate properly to the VM, to the game. Like Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 that I have. Purchased legally, by the way.
Didn't they put that on Steam?
Yeah. But I also
Didn't they
had
patch it on Steam?
Yes. I also had the physical copy way back in the day. However, so when I played on here, I have full XYZ, or, Y and X.
Full motion.
Yes. When I do through the VM or DOSBox, I don't. I can only go left and right, and the mouse goes really quickly. And nothing in the settings I seem to be able to fix that. Also, I can't use their 16-bit color, I think it is. Only 8-bit in the VM. But on the hardware, an actual XP box, I can use the higher bit rate.
I guarantee there's guides out there that can help you.
I followed them. They don't work for me. Only on the box. So I figured I had this thing laying around. I might as well put my copy of XP on it.
Sure.
And I put a 710 in there, and I seem to be able to run.
I mean, wine's always an option.
Yeah. Wine is always
Linux and wine. That's how I used to get a lot of old games to work.
And cheese?
No. Cheese is the program that you use to take pictures with your webcam.
Yeah, I know.
They're different.
I was making a joke, wine.
Yeah, I know you're making a joke, but there is actually a cheese program, and it doesn't do anything that'll help you.
I know. I've seen that chain. But I didn't like it as much. It felt too 2008 Apple cube boxy for some reason.
What?
Those original Apples that were the all-in-one, the monitor and the computer?
Yeah, they still make them.
The cheese program reminded me of that, looking at one of those.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
So, yeah?
Speaking of news, so speaking of Microsoft, just became a platinum member of the Linux Foundation.
I knew Microsoft was surprisingly liked in the open source.
Well, it's not that they were liked. They have historically had issues. When Steve Ballmer was still in charge, he had some really awful things to say about Linux. Something about it is
a cancer.
A cancer.
Yeah.
Into the software issues. But whoever the new guy is. So all of their server stuff, the Azure, is Linux-based.
Isn't that funny?
Right. So it's Linux-based. They're trying to end their use of the NT kernel, which I'm all for. Or they are moving on to a hybrid kernel for the next Windows, which would be even better.
Isn't it?
You might want to pause this. I have to take this. Hello.
You're looking good. Jonathan just got an awesome face paint job. What do you think?
I like turtles.
All right, you're great zombie.
Lovely. Okay, so we're back. So nvidia's GeForce GTX 1080 Ti, rumored to have 10 gigs of RAM and be around $1,000, right in between the market points of the 980 and the Titan XP.
I mean, isn't that what the 980 Ti was at?
No, 600.
I mean, it's at 600 now, but when it first came out, it was that better.
No, 600.
Was it really?
See, here's the theory that people have about nvidia, is that they're trying to make their top tier ever so slightly each generation more expensive so that they can fill out the price points and just raise the entire stack every generation.
So, in my experience, if people are willing to pay that price for that product en masse, you are fine. I've recently had to deal with a whole bunch of pricing stuff in the business, and that is what we always fall back onto, is if it is selling well at that price point, you're fine. Carry on. If, in a 6-month span, they're not moving any units, then that price point is too high. And they'll bring it down.
Right. But these are just rumored prices. Could be 1,000. It might not be.
I mean, it would make more sense if it enters in slightly above the 980 Ti.
No, this is the 9...
This is
oh,
the
yeah,
10,
yeah, 1080.
This is just the step up. I mean, it is what it is.
AI can predict who will be criminals based on facial features.
Yeah, that reminds me of some textbooks I read about the 1800s.
It reminds me of that one movie that predicts the future based on past crimes. What was that?
Or the one that predicts crimes based on telling the future.
Yeah, that's the
Minority Report.
Yeah, that's the one.
Where crack babies apparently are the solution. That's all you needed. It's crack babies.
Mm.
They're psychic.
Oh, speaking of the previous topic, the 1080. So my 980 Ti is the same speed, gets the same benchmarks as a 1070.
Okay.
So you won't really have to upgrade that for a while. Particularly because it's fine.
Well, how long has the 980 Ti been out?
I don't know, since 2014.
I mean, 2 years is about right.
I mean, it's the second fastest GPU at the time. And it will remain pretty badass. Os.
Well, I mean, when you grab the gold standard for a year, it tends to be a decent standard after that.
It's like how a 680 or 780 is still fine.
Yeah, I've got a 660 that's running just fine. I mean, it can use improvement, but overall it is fine.
Say goodbye to free Office on Chromebooks and PCs. Microsoft has officially decided to force all users of Office apps on the screen size of 10.1 inches or larger to pay for Office 365 subscription, which seems like a very arbitrary number to choose.
Well, good luck, Microsoft. Considering Chromebooks have Google Docs, and Google Docs perfectly capable of doing Microsoft Office stuff. There has been very little that I've needed to actually go to Microsoft Office for.
Mm-hmm.
I have not owned or used Microsoft Office in my day-to-day basis for at least 5 years. I have been functioning perfectly fine. Because it's a spreadsheet program. Like, nothing changes from season to season with Microsoft.
Yeah.
I mean, once in a while you get a new feature. Oh, look, the UI is a little bit different. Your old Excel's still working it. The biggest thing that they did was when they made the XML based files. And that was just the worst kind of transition for them. Oh, God. DocX was the bane of everybody's existence for a while. Because, while it was theoretically backwards compatible with a patch, it wasn't. And then there was a brief moment where the documents made in previous versions of Microsoft Office didn't work in the 2007 version.
Right.
Just, if there's one thing Microsoft is not good at, it's transitioning. I mean, we've seen that so many times lately.
They don't really...
Windows 10? Anyone?
Well, yeah.
You wanted Windows 10.
Windows Vista.
Windows Vista, they shut down, moved on, made Windows 7 in a year. They were so ready to get out of Vista's shadow that they no longer talk about it.
Don't they still have to support it for a little while?
I mean, a little bit. But the amount of users still on Windows Vista are non-existent.
That's true.
When was the last time you saw in the wild a Windows Vista machine?
Not very often. No.
No. You stopped seeing Windows Vista machines in the wild as soon as Windows 7 came out.
Now, although...
And they gave you a free upgrade to it.
Yeah.
Except people wanted that one.
So, Windows Vista, though, wasn't terrible. Only the machines that...
Here's the issues with Windows Vista. One, it's had system requirements. What it really meant to say was, these are the system requirements once it is up and running. It's notoriously needed twice the amount of RAM that it said it needed at startup in order to start up in a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It always had that problem. It continues to have that problem. Most of the other really terrible things it did were resolved in the first service pack, but because there was such a gap between the first service pack and when it was released, everybody already jumped ship. The only people that stayed around to keep Windows Vista were the people that just got their 64-bit processor and wanted the 64-bit operating system. Because it was... I know there was a 64-bit version of Windows XP. I have it. It is shit.
No, yeah. Because not everyone was on board with it. And no ability to backwards compatibility.
No, it's because the Microsoft included drivers did not work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't actually include any 64-bit drivers.
Could you...
All it did was take all your 16-bit programs and make them stop working. Which, when Windows XP 64 Edition came out, was a surprisingly large amount of programs.
Yeah, now you can't get away from 64-bit. Nor should you.
No, you can't get... There's still a lot of things that are still 32-bit.
Yeah. Is that because it's easier to code for still? Or?
Oh, yeah, compatibility. Because a lot of smart devices have still not caught up to 64-bit.
Now, 64-bit, I'd imagine having being able to process twice the instructions per clock is more power hungry.
That's part of it. The other thing is the architecture, power consumption, yeah, Windows being awful at things, most of it. It's just a lot of the 32-bit processors, because there are 64-bit processors, are dirt cheap. If you want to make a Raspberry Pi, for example,
right.
The reason the Raspberry Pi cost $25 for the early models is because 32-bit processors cost next to nothing now. The reason they made the Pi Zero is that 32-bit processors cost next to nothing.
Right.
They cost next to nothing, they use less power, they're easy to code on, because the 32-bit architecture for the ARM processors are so heavily documented. Plus, if you code for 32-bit, it also still works on 64-bit.
That's true.
There's only a slight efficiency upgrade if you go for a 64-bit program over a 32-bit program. That's it.
Yeah.
A 32-bit program works in a 64-bit environment just fine. So, if that's the case, why have two versions of something to support when you can just go, 32-bit's fine, let's just do that.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason you'd go 64-bit is if you need the extra mathematical calculations.
Most people go 64-bit because that's what they have, and they just want to be able to use it to its full capability.
No, I mean as a programmer, when you're writing a program. In Star Citizen, the world space is 64-bit because the virtual world is the size of an entire galaxy. And in order to have precision at a fine detail, you need the extra mathematical floating point that you get, floating point 64 that you get.
Right.
Because they tried it in 32, and like near the center you had your, well, the whole thing was like, because you know, like if you have a program you could do snap to grid, like, and then as you draw, like if you have like GIMP and you're trying to snap to grid something, well, those grids were like way too far apart. Like you couldn't walk through a room. If you hit the walk button, you'd be at one end of the hall and then magically be at the other end, because there's just not enough precision in the 32-bit float for the world space. So I was thinking 64-bit mostly excels in things with mathematical formulas and equations and things needed.
It just increases the values you can have.
Right.
32-bit
Also
has
larger amounts of RAM than 4 gigs.
Yeah.
Although there is technically 4 gigs and it only recognizes like 2.93 for some reason.
It should recognize 3.7.
Uh-huh.
The 0.3 is system reserved for bad garbage collection. This is one of the more fascinating things, is how Windows XP continues to function is beyond me. The operating system as a whole, the reason it had blue screens and stuff is like it has issues with memory. And if it ever has a memory issue, the first thing it will do is try to throw everything into that system-reserved RAM and hope for the best! So, it's not so much as plugging a leak. It's like, I have a really big bucket on standby just in case I need it.
Memory leaks are handled better in Linux because it forces programs to not leak. And Windows is like, we'll just let the programs
It's not that
handle
it forces programs to leak. What it does is it handles memory allocation better. When a program runs in Linux, the kernel itself's like, okay, how much do you need? This is how much you have. If we notice you are acting oddly, we will shut that down. It is more proactive, and it is better at allocating memory. Windows in general has always had this issue where allowing programs to run at the administrator level without much thought to why you shouldn't do that. It's a lot of the reason why Windows has such a bad virus problem is that most users are built as administrative users.
Mm-hmm.
So, while user account control simulates how in Linux and Mac OS X, in order to run things in the administrative level, you have to put in your password and say, I trust this, let it run. User account control pops up, says, hey, you sure you want to do that? And you hit yes. There's nothing stopping you. All it does is give you a tad of just a brief moment like, this is annoying. I'm going to hit yes anyway. If I want to install something in Linux or run updates, I have to double check that that's what I'm to do, put in a password, and then it will run it. That is how it should run. If I don't give it a password, or I don't know the password because I'm not the user of the system, it doesn't install anything. It doesn't let you run the very sensitive programs that, you shouldn't be running if you're not the owner of this machine.
Right.
It handles permissions very well. Windows does not. Windows, you install a virus, the first thing it's like, oh, I have administrative control.
Found it.
Yep. The first thing it's like, so Explorer.exe, you can go take a nap. You're fine. I've got this, dog.
I don't understand, like what's
nothing should be able to do that.
Is that the mentality, like, we want to be an operating system for the masses, so we can't do anything that's too difficult for them to understand?
Lazy, is what it is. It's laziness, and then everybody got hooked on that laziness, and now if you change it too far down the road, there'll be too much of a pushback. It's like parking meters. If we increase the price of parking meters, everybody got so used to it, they're gonna throw riot stuff.
I don't understand parking meters anyway. I don't even understand the new system we have, where it's like you park someplace. What do you, like, take a picture of your license plate and show the thing, or?
No, you put it in the system. It's very easy and very straightforward. It literally tells you how to do it. The only people that can't understand it are the elderly, and the obstinate against machines.
See,
those people require prepaid scratch-off tickets that they scratch off and put in their dashboard.
I just go park a little bit further away on a street that doesn't require parking.
I mean, that's perfectly fine if you're willing to do the walking.
Yeah. It takes,
you pay for convenience.
And I don't want to pay for
It's the difference between buying a squash and buying a squash the supermarket cut for you.
Yeah.
The difference is about $5 per pound.
Actually, I'll buy prepackaged chicken, which is cheaper at Wegmans than buying a package where everything's thrown in at Tops.
Is it cheaper per pound or cheaper in general, like this package costs less than the big package?
Well, it has the same amount of halves in it. So I don't know about the weights.
Look at the price per pound.
Yeah, I should.
Like you're supposed to. Adult like you adult.
Yeah.
You look at the price per pound. If the price per pound is less expensive, then that is the better deal.
I think it actually is.
I guarantee it is not.
Maybe.
It's just one of those things where if you... It's like... Pandora. There we go. That's a good example. Remember when Pandora first came out?
Yeah.
There were an ad every once in a great while.
Mm-hmm. No, there's ads all the time.
And then they're like, wow, this isn't a sustainable way of doing business. And now there's a bunch of ads, and you can only skip 3 songs and all these other things, and people stopped using the service. In general, because it became less user-friendly and more them-friendly. It's the same concept. Like, if Windows XP started actually doing proper permissions, a lot of people that didn't understand what they were doing in the first place will really not understand what they're doing, and you will start alienating people.
Did XP do proper permissions?
Oh, no. Whoa, way worse. Way worse than Windows 10.
I didn't think it did. I always knew that it was easy to do proper permissions in Linux, because there are 3 of them. You can read it, you can write to it, you can execute it.
No, that's even more... It's a lot more complicated than that, actually. The 3 things that all things have are... owner, group...
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew you had owner, group, and everyone.
Right, everyone else.
Right. And I knew that you could set for owner, group, and you can set their own...
All of them are separate.
Well, yeah, I knew that, but I knew for each, like, the owner had the read, write, and execute, and then the group had read, write, and execute. No, you can
set them all read, write, and execute.
Well, but they can be different for the owner, group, and everyone.
Right.
Right.
It's like, if you're not the owner, you cannot open this file. If you are in our group, it doesn't matter if you were the owner or not. Who are you? You don't get to do this.
I know, yeah, it's funny. You can
Windows XP has that kind of, except if you are an administrator user of that machine, you can change it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. That's all you need.
I always felt like
the only times it cares if it is a network resource. In that case, it will inherit whatever the network resource has. But in general, if I get files that I can't open, I can go and change those permissions, no problem. Like, Windows XP would not give a fuck.
I always hate it because dragging and dropping for backup on Windows is really... Because you try to, like, reformat and then try to open the things that you've dragged and dropped to back up, and it's like, you don't have permission. I'm like, access anyway.
You don't have permission. Well, I will in a second.
No, it's like
all of the permissions.
Yes. No, it's like, you don't have permission. Continue or don't continue. Continue. Here they are. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like...
It's so silly.
Although the only flaw to permissions is I open the hard drive, or not open the hard drive, I like boot up to a Linux or a Linux and just read the file anyway, and it's like permissions don't exist.
Right. So
that's where I guess the hard driving...
But here's the thing, right? If you tried to if you lock something down in Linux and you try to open it in Mac, they use the same permission sets.
Yeah.
Windows XP is the only one that uses special NTFS only permissions, where everyone else uses the same set of permissions. Though, in the next version of Windows, they will start using the same permissions, which is exciting.
You mean the next update? Or...
I don't think they're going to try to update. I don't think they're going to try to extend Windows 10 past where it is already. I think right now they've got everybody that they possibly could onto Windows 10. They extended the free Windows 10 upgrade. Got more people. They have currently saturated Windows 10 to the amount of saturation of Windows 10 they could possibly ever get to. They will never, ever get everybody on the same version of Windows. The closest they ever got was Windows XP, where they almost got all the Windows 98 5 users over to Windows XP.
I got Windows...
Most people skipped 98.
I thought XP had like a 95 to 98% market hold.
Yeah, that's still not everyone.
Well, I know, but that's incredibly huge.
It's good. It's really good for the time.
That's like what Apple has for their market saturation. It's, well, except before Samsung started getting where it is, and Android started getting where it is. It's like when the first iPhone came out in 2001.
Nope, BlackBerry's still dominating.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Everybody forgets about BlackBerry because they're effectively dead.
No.
They were killed hardcore. As soon as Android showed up, BlackBerry was like, we don't even know what we're doing anymore, guys.
Well, they didn't want to change.
Who wants apps? Apps aren't important.
You ever notice how companies can be classified the same way as a species in terms of are you going to die or not? You can either adapt or
die,
get out of there and into a different market or a different habitat, or die. Adapt, move, or die. And BlackBerry didn't adapt. They didn't move to like a new country to where Android wasn't at the time.
No, so it's still just adapt or die. Move is never an option. Move just prolongs dying.
Well, yeah, but it prolongs it.
Yeah, that you still die because you adapt or you die.
It gives you longer to adapt.
Only if you're going to move that way. If you're not going to adapt, you still die.
It's true.
Like, when BlackBerry was still around, they thought everybody just wanted a phone for a little bit of web and some emails. They're like, everybody's about these emails. Emails is the new email. Email all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people like, texting? Like...
I remember when they were trying to like...
Fine, here's some texting.
I remember companies trying to like charge per text.
Oh yeah, they did that hardcore.
Yeah, and now it's all about data. Charging for data now.
Because they realized people were resistant to texting.
And now I'm starting to see signs where they're shifting from data to just charging a rate.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till you get unlimited data and just charge the rate. Like, I mean, maybe, you know...
They do that.
Well, I'm very difficult to find unlimited data. Like, they
No,
had it
it's...
at first, and then they're like, bad idea. And then
Well,
they
so
killed it.
it goes back to the whole, if people are willing to pay that price, then charge that price.
Right.
People... So Sprint still has unlimited everything.
Well, that's Sprint. Sprint doesn't have, as far as I know, doesn't have this great coverage around here.
Right. So it goes back to the, what are you willing to pay? If you're like, I need Verizon because that's the only guy in town, they're like, well, we don't have an unlimited plan.
Yeah.
Then you don't buy the unlimited plan because it doesn't exist. You pay whatever price point you want, which is way too many monies. And that's it. That's what you do. And that's why Verizon does what they do.
Hey, Verizon gave me a 17% discount.
Sure, for what, a year?
No, because apparently I told them I work at this place. They looked at it. Oh, your company must have a corporate account. Here's 70% off for the duration of your employment. Or if you leave, just don't tell it us, and then,
Sure. If that's the case, yeah, it goes down. But most average consumers are like, this is too expensive for me.
By the way, if whatever company you have for your phone service, just say, by my working at this place, I had to show like a pay stub and ID, but by me working at this place, do I get a discount? Like if you work for the state parks department, you can get a discount.
Yeah, most
Because I walked in
government
with
entities can. Though
I didn't know that. Like I didn't know like that. Like I don't know like what incentive do they have for doing that for me? To keep like.
because they get the sale. In a world where you are paid in commission, you will do anything to make that happen.
It's true.
Yeah, though there is the $45 track phone option for unlimited everything. Is it track phone?
But I don't have to pay for. I don't have to worry about like going to the store and getting a pin printout every now and then.
Yeah, because you can't do that online. Oh wait, yes you can.
Oh.
You can go do one of those bring your own phone, pay $45 for unlimited everything for a month plans, and then just set it up as an auto pay online.
I'm already so invested in Verizon.
I mean, sure, if you have that option. Verizon's very expensive.
It is.
Verizon is, while it is ranked number 1, they are also very expensive.
It's like living in Sweden.
Right.
Switzerland.
Well, kind of. There's other... Yeah. Anyway. If you are number 1 in carriers, you get to charge whatever you want, and people will pay for it because they want the coverage. Don't offer unlimited everything. Nobody seems to care. Charge whatever.
To be honest, they give me 5 gigs, and I don't use all of it.
Right, because Wi-Fi exists.
Yeah.
If you're in an area with good Wi-Fi, buy the cheapest plan they have. You don't need all of that data. If you live in nowhere, and this is your one access to the internet, then you might want a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Although, it's like when a Mac user tries to go over... No! The idea of investing in a product for so long, switching ecosystems can be very difficult.
Yes.
Like, if you are a Canon photographer, not the things that shoot cannonballs, but you have Canon glass and you have Canon cameras, switching over to, like, Nikon, unless you have some sort of adapter.
If you're a Pepsi drinker, and you start drinking Coke because that's all you have now, then, yeah, it's gonna suck at first if you don't like the flavor, but eventually you won't care.
What would you say is the hardest ecosystem to switch, like, related products, so competitors, ecosystem to ecosystem?
If somebody is a diehard Apple fan, because that's what it is, it's not like they give you anything special anymore. If you're a diehard Apple, switching out of that is the hardest thing in the world for people to do. Because it is not that they sold you a product, they sold you a lifestyle that also happens to include their products. Oh, you have the MacBook, you have the iPhone, you have the, time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
You need dongles now, but whatever, you're willing to buy the dongles because you bought all this anyway.
It's
Oh, there's a new iPhone. I've got to get that one because newest iPhone.
though it really is about ecosystems.
Yeah, also, it depends on if the person has a lot of free cash. Because if there's one ecosystem that will take all of your money for you...
The Adobe ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what the most users of Adobe are on? Macs.
Though I'm on PC and I use Adobe and it works just fine.
Right. A lot of people that are of the creatives will use Macs and Adobe software, and that's just what they do. They're not really willing to do anything. The simplest solutions, while expensive, many people go for.
See, as a person with a computer degree, I know enough to stay away from Apple.
Well, it's not that you have to stay away from Apple. You just need to know what you're getting into.
It's underneath the tissue paper. It's such an Apple thing to do, but...
Right. Like, if you like what they look like, fine. If you know what you're doing, fine. But for the majority of people, it's too expensive to buy a new phone every year.
Yeah, I don't. Like, this is my very first smartphone.
The phone I just bought replaced my phone I got in 2012.
Yeah, but
I mean, it went 4 years before it was like, no, please stop, I'm dying. And of course, granted, that phone model was a phone model from 2 years prior to that year. So at the point I was replacing it, it was a 6-year-old model.
Right.
Like, yeah, at that point, I have gotten all value out of that. It is fine to move on.
It's getting harder to move on in terms of if you buy a smartphone from today, they've matured so much that I don't think they'd really be stressed unless it's a forced obsolescence. And even then, I'm pretty sure you can find some way to get around a forced obsolescence through the modding community.
Right. With the exception that Cyanogen mod went away, so it's a little less easy to do nowadays.
I mean, I can still... If I still had my iTouch 4th Gen, I sold it for like $30. But I could still install jailbreak on it. And,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
but I think that's because Apple really doesn't care about that product anymore.
Oh, no, they super care about jailbreaking on old products.
Really?
Oh, absolutely they do.
How dare you give new life into old products?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When your whole business model is top-down, horizontal, where everything has to be specific, then yes, you care when people start modding your products, no matter how old they are. They're like, it's like going to a restaurant, asking or ordering a burger, trying to make a substitute because you didn't like their choice of cheese, and then being yelled at.
Yeah.
Like, no, this burger is perfect the way it is. You will eat this burger the way I made it. That's it. That's the end of the discussion. You want burger, this is the burger. You don't want burger, go away.
Of course, at sit-down restaurants, you can swap things out. Especially ones that are like, we have gluten-free options. Like, where they try to like force upon you, we have all these options.
And that's the other that's the other side of that same coin. Like, PC... and just the whole I build my own computer paradigm in general is like those restaurants that have the nut-free, the gluten-free, the egg-free, vegan, vegetarian. Like, they're trying to they're trying to spread it out so that anybody can come and do this thing. Like, yeah, then you'll get some really terrible products in there.
But
like,
it also
like Acer's. For example, just Acer existing.
I thought Acer was pretty good.
Asus is better. Acer is the low end. Like, some products from Acer are fine. Other products from Acer are heaping piles of garbage.
I've heard Acer monitors are pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, monitors are really hard to mess up.
Yeah.
Acer laptops always explode.
Although, yeah, I don't really own laptops. I would like a laptop, but not one that could compete with my gaming computer. Because then it's the idea of buying...
It's not that you want something that can or cannot compete against a desktop. If you have a laptop, it has a very specific business style thing to go with it. And in that case, you want... you don't want to go with a consumer-grade laptop. You want to go with a business-grade laptop. Because business-grade laptops are meant to be serviced at a place of business by their certified techs. So if something goes wrong, you can replace it on your own. That's why the IBM Lenovo series... Well, it was IBM, now it's Lenovo. But the Lenovo T-Series is still so widely used in business because if a keyboard goes out, it is the same keyboard on every single T model. From the T61 and up, have all used the same power supply, keyboard.
Yeah, you can just swap them
Yeah, you can literally swap it out. It's unplug, put it back in. You don't work for a business anymore? Go to eBay. You can buy wholesale bundles of those keyboards.
Yeah.
The connector for the power supply went. It's literally, I can go replace it. Consumer-grade laptops do not care about the consumer being able to replace things. It is all aesthetics, and it is built to be that burger that you can't substitute anything on.
Yeah.
So, in those cases, then, if something breaks, you're going to have to be willing to take it someplace to get it fixed. Because laptops have no standard. Desktops have, the ATX standards. All desktops will use these standards, these ISO standards. You get a laptop, and the laptop company gets to make up the standard as it goes along.
Except ATX and all that suffers from we can't decide what screw hole standard, whether we're using metric or imperial system.
That's fine, there's still a standard.
That's true.
Any standard is better than no standard.
You have that girl has no standards.
Right. You find a nice company that has good standards, like the Lenovo's, and they're like, the T-Series? Everything's the same on the T-Series. We switch the hardware around from model to model, but overall, if something breaks, you can replace it cheap. On your own.
People seem to be absolutely crazy for EVGA, though.
Sure.
Anyway, as I was going to say, this side of the coin that we were talking about, I feel like fosters good competition, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So you'll get... It's like... The Apple thing is, we don't care...
Apple's,
for
what they're doing, have no competition for what they are doing.
Right. So... But it's hard for them to improve. If you don't... Because improvement out of necessity.
Yeah. No, their improvement is we need to make it thinner.
Yeah.
Hold on. How many more ports... What do these ports do? Do we really need these ports? We can get 3mm out of this if we just get rid of that port there.
I was, when the MacBook Air or whatever came out, and I was thinking, is it just a box and you open it and nothing's there?
Yeah. But, that's their jam, right? They want to make the best consumer-grade product.
You open it and air blows in your face from the factory. See, it's the MacBook Air.
The hardware they chose works really well because it is handcrafted. It is a bespoke computer that they have crafted for you.
By Chinese people in China.
It's handcrafted. Bespoke. Everything selected for optimum whatever we're going for this time around.
Curated.
It is curated. That is the best way to describe Apple products, is they are curated. They are selected for a specific reason because this is what we decided we wanted this time.
On the other side of that, if it breaks, it only breaks one way.
Yeah.
And then it can be fixed one way.
Right, but not by you.
That's true.
There are people that buy Macs that know how Macs work and are able to fix them. Macs were not made to be fixed by not Mac fixy people.
There's a question of, are Macs reliable?
For the most
Due
part.
to the curated parts. If
they are as reliable as the people that use them.
Okay. So...
Like most computers are reliable like the people that use them.
My camera shut off.
That's fine.
Yes, because my computer and any other technology... Actually, there's a difference between my computer and my IT department's computer. They'll open up any links in a VM, and I'll just open it up on the bare metal.
Right.
Although I still don't have any viruses
Right.
because I'm smart, but...
But the other thing is, like...
There's a different level there.
The amount of handiness you have... Like, if you build your own computer, it will be perfect for you.
Right.
It's... Their mentality is, we're building you the perfect computer. Because this is what you wanted. If you didn't know what you wanted, this is what you wanted.
They're doing that hive mind, like, they don't think for
It's
themselves.
not that they're doing the hive mind thing. It's the gourmet store philosophy. You want, like, potato chips and a chocolate bar or whatever, and you don't care, you go to the grocery store or gas station. If you want to go to a place that has very fancy stuff, you go there, and they will tell you what you want. That is how they sell you gourmet products. Is like, we have freshly roasted coffee, we have these candies, we have this chocolate, these muffins. Like, these are the things we selected. This is what you want, even though you didn't know what you wanted. Oh, you didn't know that chocolate bars with potato chips in them were delicious until we told you that you wanted that? Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah.
So, what they're doing is they're making a gourmet product more than they are making a computer. Like, the fact that it is a computer is irrelevant to the point that it is a gourmet product.
I think I read somewhere, Apple is a luxury goods company.
Pretty much.
They're not a tech company.
Yeah.
Like, they're registered as, like, luxury goods or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, they're gourmet luxury goods.
Which is interesting, because I thought that got them around some things. But
Well, so there was a point where Macs had something going for them that nobody else did. And then they started using the Intel processor because it was a better idea. And,
then Steve Jobs died.
well, I mean, before Steve Jobs died, like, they decided that since there's nothing really unique about them, that they decided that because they're not Windows is their selling point. And now it's like, oh, look at what these Macs look like. You want to look like these guys? You gotta get the same stuff as them. Like, you need your fancy leather bags and your MacBook and your iPhone.
Now,
It's lifestyle.
what processor were they using before they went x86?
They were using the PowerPC processor. Which uses the PowerPC architecture.
Proprietary stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you have to remember, when it comes to things, the more you want to work on something, the better you can improve it. The reason I use Linux is because I don't care if I have to rip things apart or force it to work.
Yeah.
That is my jam. I will make it work, one way or another. Like, I get enjoyment, and I know what I'm doing for the most part. I can make it work. And I'm fine with forcing things to work and getting it to work. A PC is the medium between, I don't want things that just work. The Mac mentality. And I don't, I don't know so much that I'm willing to go and sit in a terminal all day to get this program to work.
Yeah, I would use...
There is a certain amount of PC things that do just work, and that's fine. That's, like, the reason Steam is so perfect is the fact that it runs on all of the operating systems, you install the game, and it will handle everything else for you.
I would use Linux, except not all my Steam games are written for the operating system yet.
Yeah, I know, and the ones that aren't, I make work. And that is the difference.
I mean, technically, if I spent the time, I could do it. I don't want to spend the time.
Right, that's the difference between I'm willing to spend the time and I'm not willing to spend the time.
Also, I'm not...
Or I don't care at all. I just have all of this money burning a hole in my pocket.
Also, I'm not sure if some of the drivers for some of my stuff will work on Linux.
It does.
Well, there's something.
Guarantee it does.
I've had a few things not work. And although Linux is about to come into its own, outside of owning the internet into the consumer space, if Windows gets
It has already.
yeah, but not in America. It has in every other country.
Right. Every other country. It's fine. It's not popular in America, but
It's about to be.
just saying, LibreOffice is beating Microsoft Office in everywhere but the US.
No, I have LibreOffice.
In fact, 3 major world governments require that on all machines over Microsoft Office.
I don't understand why schools are still using Microsoft products.
Because Microsoft understands that if we give away a lot of free stuff to colleges and high schools and elementary schools and middle
They'll
schools,
stay with
they
it.
get hooked on our product. They don't understand that there are alternatives, and they keep using the product. That's why Photoshop and, well, all of Adobe products are still widely used. Is that you teach people how to do Photoshop on Photoshop, while GIMP exists and is perfectly functional and a great analog to Photoshop.
I use
Most
GIMP.
people refuse to use it if they were trained on Photoshop because the buttons are in a different place.
I use GIMP.
Right. But I'm serious.
No,
People stop because the buttons are in a different place.
Well, that's like, if you remove the Internet Explorer icon on the desktop, people think the internet, like you deleted the internet or something.
It is the mentality of, are you willing to put in a little bit of effort to learn a new program?
And we're
That
talking
is
about,
almost the same as the one you were using.
and we're talking a little. There are some programs that are hard to get used to. Like if you're trying to like learn Blender.
Right, but Blender is an open source.
Right.
That one's free to use. I'm perfectly fine with people being taught and learning a program that is free and open source that they can then go and grab on their own and use outside of the school environment. That's why, when you're learning programming languages, teaching Java is a great first start, because it being mostly open source implementation, you can go and do that at home.
I need to learn Java.
I mean,
I can teach myself in a weekend, probably.
uh,
I just don't have a weekend free to do it.
Sun Microsystems, the people that maintain Java,
Yeah, I knew they
have
were.
learning paths.
Yeah.
They will teach you for free how to use Java. The only programming language more learning friendly is Perl, where every book published on Perl has to also be open source and available to everyone. And you need to learn Perl, do it. You have access to almost an entire library of programmers teaching people Perl for free. And it's also open source, and it works on everywhere. Yeah. When you were learning things, you always learn in a pseudo open source way. Learning exists in open source
Right.
because I have this knowledge, I want to share it to everyone so that they also have the same knowledge that I have. That is teaching. I have code that does this thing. I want everybody to have access to this code so we all can be on the same page. But then, as soon as you graduate and you go out into the real world, you're like, that code you have, you are not allowed to share it. Here's a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
And that was my first freelance job. I could not start. I made a prototype, then I got hit with a non-disclosure agreement, and they own it now. Because that's how it works.
Yep. We are this
It's so
company
sad.
and we own you. Unless you work for one of the Web 2.0 companies.
Even then, like, the thing is, open source, you can get jobs in that. You can be successful. You can have a career in it.
It's very hard to do.
It is not actually that difficult.
Really? I mean, you just have like a donate to me button or something?
No.
Name recognition?
Nope.
You get paid for open source?
Yeah, you can. The open source mentality is the source code has to be free and widely available.
So you can do it free for consumers, but companies who want to use it get paid?
Well, Red Hat's the good example.
Yeah.
Red Hat Linux, you have to pay, get the license code after you put that in, everything's free and open source. What they're doing is you are charging for support.
Ah.
That is Red Hat's big thing, is that you pay Red Hat to support the program you bought. You are not paying for the program, you're paying for the support.
That's true. So some companies will, or some people will make the program free, and then just if you want support, you pay.
Well, also think of it this way: you can get a job at a not-for-profit center. Where does the income come if they are not for profit?
Donations.
Not just donations, tax cuts,
Uh,
government grants. Actually, New York State has grants now for open source developers.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we probably have plenty of stuff to go on.
Yeah. So see you in the next episode. This has been That Show on the Weekend. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, or interact. Whatever, up or down, doesn't matter.
Put it into place. Rotate it.
Yes.
You
And
can do that with annotations.
yeah, and
I need a spinning annotation.
a video about setting up FreeNAS will come. No dates, but it will come. And
Soon, trademark.
yes. And then you have an excellent day. Enjoy. Greetings!
Yeah, that's it. Just greetings.
Yes. Okay, so this is That Show on the Weekend. You know the drill by now. La la la. No,
Just an intro here.
I probably should.